This is Doris Raymond again, and I am following up on a promise that I made in the last vlog that I would take you on my next trip, and I am really excited to share this one with you. 38 years ago, I took my first trip out of the Western Hemisphere to Morocco, and it was there that I got bitten by wanderlust. After 38 years, I was curious to see how homogenized Morocco had become, and from my memory, the city of Fez had given me the most magical, visceral memories. So I wanted to go back there in search of the Holy Grail. My original trip was with my best friend, Donna, from San Francisco, which is where I lived at the time. But this time, I was going to be traveling with my cousin Kim, who's like my little sister. She is a serious collector of art in almost any form, and between my search for the Holy Grail and her voracious appetite for art, we created an itinerary that would exhaust most people, but not us. The trip of stores that we went into, every place that we went to, our minds were blown, okay? So I may repeat that sentence a few times, but this place carried architectural treasures, wooden doors that were hand-painted and carved, the ceilings that are so intricate that are now used as tabletops, everything you can imagine from fireplace covers to carpets to the most intricate lighting you can imagine. But what was really interesting was 38 years ago when I went with Donna, and actually my mother came along as well, when we went to Marrakesh, we stayed at the Mamounia, which is a hotel that still exists. And although we didn't go there this time to just, to check out an old memory, we did see the furniture from Mamounia, which had been sold to this first store that we went into. Mamounia was decorated in really fantastic French Art Deco furniture all over. And you can see that these chairs are Art Deco, and there were other things from Mamounia as well, but those are the only ones that I have photographed. And I will tell you that it was my first taste into seeing stacks of carpets, that were available, and you'll be seeing more as we go further down the road. And when we left the room that had, or the rooms I should say, that had all the furniture, we walked into a space that had things that made my heart skip a beat, which is ethnic jewelry. And you have to hand it to me. I mean, I resisted temptation so many times, but there were so many incredible pieces that were primarily from a lot of the Berber, from the high atlas, the mid atlas, and the anti atlas as well. And I did not buy one piece of jewelry on my trip, but boy, oh boy, was it tempting. I was curious to find out that one of the reasons why people love to shop in Morocco is they have a lot of natural ingredients in, like argan. They have amber. They have all kinds of fantastic things, and the spices as well. And we went into the first herbalist that we went into was in Marrakesh, and Kim and I both kind of went nuts. In my travels, one of the things that I really appreciate is looking at beautiful decay. Like in Cuba, for example, you see remnants of what was once, a majestic hotel, and the paint is shriveled. Anyway, for me, beautiful decay falls into all different categories: clothing, buildings, and Morocco has a ton of it. The food in Morocco is really flavorful. When I use the word spicy, I don't mean like hot. I mean with lots of different ingredients. And we were hungry, so we went to this place that served traditional Moroccan food in a tangine, which is it's a ceramic unit that is used to actually cook. And the dish that we had was a vegetarian couscous, and it was divine, with caramelized onions and garbanzo beans. You can see all the ingredients. It was great. And after lunch, Kim and I went out for a stroll in the Medina, and it's actually really cool the way it's laid out, because there are sections that have like all olives or all lighting or all kohl for eyeliner. I mean, now someone like me traveling all the way to Marrakesh is not going to not go to the Yves Saint Laurent Museum. I mean, that was obviously something that had to happen. And embarrassed to say that I did not go to it 38 years ago, but you know why? It wasn't there. Anyways, the museum itself is a huge draw for visitors, and that's actually, for me being in the vintage clothing business, is really exciting to see the interest. There were lines and lines of people, and people coming up where if you didn't purchase your ticket in advance, you were just out of luck. It was in two sections. There was the garden, which is called the Jardin Margerel, because it was purchased from Monsieur Margerel by Pierre Berger, who was Yves Saint Laurent's partner in life and in business. The garden itself is breathtaking. It has vegetation that's not indigenous to Morocco, and it's so beautifully kept, and it's majestic. That's the best way I can describe it. I wish I could show you images of what's inside the museum, but we were not allowed to take photographs. There are images online that you can check out, but I will tell you that for someone who admires indigenous cultures and handicrafts and attire, it was fantastic. There were some pretty funny things that we saw. I actually noticed that this tree, which I thought was an actual palm tree, was actually camouflaging some kind of equipment. But above it is literally the largest nest I think I've ever seen, with a very large bird sitting on top of it. So we went from driving past this incredible nature piece to this store, which was very different than most of the businesses we'd been to in the Medina. It was a business that lists its best price. There was no negotiating. And I was remiss in not mentioning that that's part of the game in Morocco. But in this place, they quote you price and that's it. And it was 3 stories tall with pottery, with jewelry, with carpets, with the most intricately made fine cane wrapped in leather floor covering, with ceramics. I mean, everything you can create in Morocco was in there, and it was priced really well. And actually, this is where I got my runner, my carpet. So when you walk down the street, things are just beautifully displayed. This particular vendor was selling herbs and spices, and that brown mound that you see, I have no idea what it is. Actually, I'm looking at it going, is that amber? No. Oh, I think it's aragon. But you can see the can labels the business as an herbalist. So after 4.5 days, we changed our itinerary. We were going to head to the Sahara Desert. And in order to get there, we thought rather than spend the time in the car, we flew to Rashidia. And from Rashidia to the Sahara, we passed many interesting places. So one of the places that we stopped at was this colorful stall that was selling teas and dates. Morocco is known for exporting dates, and there's so many different varieties and different qualities. And this was a place that our guide felt was worth checking into. The other place we went to, which totally blew my mind, was a quarry where they were mining fossils that were millions of years old, and every single kind of fossil you could imagine, turning them into either artwork or tabletops, countertops, things like that. It was this massive place, and you can see some of the critters that were on this planet a long time ago. You know, if you're going to Africa, you got to tell me that there's no way that you would miss the opportunity to go to the Sahara, ride a camel, and watch the sunset. And that's exactly what we did. We went to a luxury camp for one night, and it was visually the most stunning experience you can imagine. The food wasn't so great, but the experience itself visually was fantastic. The camps themselves, the tents, were beautifully appointed, and I'm glad I did it. It was a once in a lifetime experience. You might not know it, but the camels in Africa have only one hump, as opposed to other locations where there are 2 humps. The ride itself was very much like riding a horse, and the camels were all tethered together. So, like, my line was maybe 6 camels connected, and there were groups of probably 3 of us that were working towards the sunset. And afterwards, we all kind of settled down and listened to some music with some African musicians. But I'm glad I went. And the next morning, we went to the city of Fez. It was not a very long drive, it was about 4 hours. And throughout our journey, we would see well taken care of cats, beautiful things that were beautiful decay, and colorful crafts. But one of the places that we did, our guide pointed out to us, was a building that had been around for quite a while, and it was a very sophisticated place to help rehabilitate and save animals. And it was way ahead of its time. And that was kind of exciting because most people think of Morocco as being a third world country and being backwards. But yeah, throughout the journey, we were seeing just beauty and fantastic, and birds accessing it and actually building nests inside of them. Just beautiful animals everywhere. We saw donkeys fighting. It was, I could have spent weeks more there. I was just intrigued and in love. One of the things that we did when we got to Fez was we went to several crafts places that we had not gone to in Marrakesh. And this is an area that would make ceramics and then basically break them into pieces to do mosaics. It's very tedious work to actually match the size, but the finished products are beautiful. And they came up with a way to utilize, I guess it's a kind of acrylic, because there's a lightweight one and then the heavy one, which is the traditional ceramic. So walking through the Medina, which is the old part of the city, there were pretty funny things like cats staring at the meat as the butcher's cutting it up, or this beautifully merchandised spice store. So many just visually appealing things. Even the meat market was not as repulsive. But to look at the architectural details and the amount of time and work that went into creating these masterpieces is just, it's mind-boggling. Another craft place that we went to was a tannery where we could actually see the vats. When we went to the rooftop, we could see the vats where they would drop the skins to release the hair, and also multiple vats that were different colored dyes, and they would leave the skins out on the terraces to dry. But to go inside the store and to see the explosion of colors for the various products, from the shoes to the purses to the belts, was really great. And I did actually get a couple of pieces. One of the places that we went to that was an antiquarian place, Kim actually bought a fantastic carpet there. And the gentleman that was there was quite a persuasive salesman. Fez is a special place because within the walls you really feel like you've gone back about 400 years. Clearly you can't have any cars in there. When I was there 38 years ago, there were no vehicles of any kind except for donkeys. Nowadays you see motorcycles, but the alleys can be quite narrow, and this one was great because the lighting was perfect. We went to the fish market. This is in Essaouira. We left Fez, and we went to this town that Jimi Hendrix discovered, and a lot of people go there for that very reason. But our guide bought some fresh fish and vegetables, and he actually prepared a meal for us, which was very special. Essaouira is on the waterfront, and it is reminiscent to me of Sausalito in many ways. First and foremost, it's very touristic, which is not my personal cup of tea, but I love being by the water, and a lot of the structures are pretty old. So I'm glad we stopped off there, but it's definitely not a place I plan to go back to again. While we were in Essaouira, we went into a craftsman's place where he does inlay with wood, I should say. And one of the things that I acquired from him was a box that is a puzzle to open. I actually bought 2 of them, and I neglected to ask him for instructions, and I can't remember how to open them. So in Essaouira, I'm wondering if this gentleman who's speaking to work people is dressed specifically to emulate Jimi Hendrix, or if that is his way of style. But I had to take this picture in a very secretive way. I don't know. I think he reminds me of what Jimi Hendrix would look like in his, let's say, late 40s to mid 50s. Look at the quality of the work on that inlay. I almost bought a box there, but I don't know. Anyway, I didn't buy it. This photograph is my guide, Youssef, showing me inlaid work and explaining the process and how complex it is. Because Essuera was fairly limited in, things that we would want to see, our guide took the liberty of leaving us. We got exited from the hotel early, and he said he was going to drive about an hour out of the way instead of driving back to Marrakesh because he wanted us to see something very special. And this is not AI. We're not playing with the photographs, but this is in fact goats in trees. The trees are Aragon trees, and the babies have to learn to climb early because the lower branches have already been devoured. And to me, it was kind of a miracle to see the weight of the goats and the bending branches. I thought for sure that they would fall, and I asked how often are there remnants of goats on the ground, and very infrequently. So apparently this is a skill that they've passed on from generation to generation. While we were at the location looking at the goats in the trees, there was a shepherd with the goats and also some sheep, and he was kind enough to bring over this 3-month-old baby for me to hold, and it was a pleasure. It actually wanted to eat my hair. Thinking about the 2 weeks that we've been in Morocco, I was totally remiss in not mentioning that our incredible driver, Kamal, was the person in the vehicle that got us to these places. And he was beyond fantastic, as was Youssef. And, our last day was back to Marrakesh, and we had just a few hours before shops would close. And Kim mentioned the shop that Yves Saint Laurent's museum, Pierre Berger, went to buy a lot of the Berber pieces because she'd read in one of the guidebooks that it was a fantastic place to go to. It's called Amazonite, and it's the owner is a gentleman, but his sister Saba works there, and Kim went nuts when we went in there. She bought like a ton of earrings, and we went into the room that had carpets, and because I mentioned that I have a collection of textiles that are from other countries, they went in the back and pulled this piece out, which I'm happy to say, full circle, I found the Holy Grail on this trip. This piece is a masterpiece. I was told that it's about 100 years old. It's from the Middle Atlas Mountains. It was made by a woman as kind of a proof of her worth to her husband-to-be, and it's a functional piece of clothing because of the weather in the Middle Atlas Mountains. It's a piece that was meant to be, to keep the person the wearer safe and warm. It doesn't look like it was ever worn, so I wonder what the story is behind that. But, lucky for me that it's in pristine condition, and it is a masterpiece that I plan to keep and hang and appreciate for all its beauty. The kind of rug that it is, I do not want to kill the name, but it's a Beni, and then the next word is capital Ourain, and look at for yourself. It's absolutely beautiful. As we're leaving, everywhere I looked, I saw beautiful things, and these 3 women sitting, it was like I styled it. I could not have done a better job. And that was our last hours, daylight hours in Marrakesh, because our flight was at 6 o'clock in the morning and we had to leave the hotel at 4. But it was a wonderful journey, and I hope you enjoyed this vlog. I'm happy to be sharing so much of what brought me joy, and my cousin Kim joy as well. And hopefully I'll have some more vlogs to share with you sometime in the not so distant future. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.